I appreciate the notion of agency, that we're not bystanders in the world. It's decisions, not conditions, that determine our fate and future. And that fundamental notion of agency, I think, is important more broadly. And I think that goes to some of the issues around, victimization. And I see a lot of that, respectively, on the right, increasingly, even with Trump often approaching things from that sort of mindset.
What do you mean? What do you mean for Trump?
I think there's sort of the grievance.
What I saw.
Yeah.
What it looked to me like he was negotiating with a deaf prostitute.
The political pressure cooker finally blew wide open, and the blast was impossible to ignore. Gavin Newsom didn't just respond, he erupted, turning the moment into a full-scale detonation after Tyrus pulled the pin on a reveal nobody expected. What followed was pure outrage, frantic cleanup, and a reaction so fiery it felt like it could melt the microphone on the spot. If you think you've already witnessed the peak of political chaos, think again. This one twists, swerves, and shakes everything loose until viewers are staring at their screens in disbelief. And through all of it, one dangerous question keeps hanging in the air, pulling everyone closer for the next explosive turn.
Well, it's not his words when he speaks.
Yeah.
You have to watch him closely. And some genius decided not to film him any lower than the shoulder.
Yes, did you? Yes.
So what did he do?
You couldn't see the hands.
No, but he sent Morse code.
Yes.
Go back and watch it. Look at the blinking. Blink, look. Meet me at the house. Like, he's blinking. He's sending, I'm getting there. Hey, just so you know, I'm not wearing.
Before we go any further, hit that like button and subscribe, because missing this chaos would be a tragedy on its own. The moment I stepped toward the scene, it didn't just enter quietly. It kicked the entire door off its hinges, dragged mud across every clean surface, and toppled every carefully stacked talking point like a storm with a grudge. In seconds, the political stage shifted from smooth performance to total disruption, tearing through the usual routine of polished smiles and recycled outrage with the force of a runaway spotlight.
Gavin Newsom he just all around sucks.
Yeah.
He's just, you gotta be good at something.
Yeah. You gotta be good at something.
You gotta,
What is
clearly the governor thing ain't his thing.
Yeah.
Telling the truth is tough. So maybe he was gonna be a good comedian, because that's what happens to a lot of people. Acting doesn't work out, then they go into politics, and he's like, hey, I'll be a comedian. Turns out, sucks at that too. So I don't know. Maybe try carpentry. I don't know. But
the very next minute, Tyrus unleashed a verbal spotlight so blinding it made California's entire political weather system flicker like a faulty power grid on live television. In an instant, Gavin Newsom wasn't effortlessly surfing the wave of his carefully crafted image anymore. He was suddenly thrown off balance, exposed under a glare he could not control.
I want some of this, then you do some of this, and I'll do some of that back to you, and then we'll do this, and then I'll pay you, and then we'll do it again.
True.
And then she kept saying, no. Okay, how about this? You do this one first, then we do this one, then we give a little back and forth.
He suddenly found himself paddling against a tidal surge of exposure, reactions, and a public mood that shifted from polished to volcanic in seconds. The striking part wasn't that uncomfortable information surfaced. That happens every single day in modern politics. But how violently the shift hit him the moment the spotlight snapped into place.
Speaking of full of I'm sorry, I'm confused. He's still governor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he could do something about it. That's the most irritating thing, is like, why did anyone say with a follow-up where he's like, the homeless situation is ridiculous? Follow-up question, aren't you governor?
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference. That's the difference between the radical left and President Trump. He'll talk about something as it's.
The real spectacle was watching a man known for thriving on control suddenly lose his grip on the narrative, even if only for a moment that felt shockingly revealing. It was a rare glimpse of raw irritation slipping through the polished image, breaking past the PR filter with force. The eruption wasn't subtle or refined. It hit with the kind of intensity that makes consultants choke on their coffee and frantically refresh their screens like traders watching a market collapse. What made the whole scene even sharper was the contrast. Tyrus sat there with calm, almost effortless confidence, the kind someone carries when they know the reaction will deliver half the impact on its own.
And then, look, he's blinking, and then eventually the camera guy, realizing that he's signaling him, so he gets appalled, leans back, camera comes down, and then we're back to this. I'll do this for you, you do this for me a little. So he's saying whatever he's going to say. There it is, see? They couldn't hold him back. He's like, I'm not on film. Oh, I'm not, nope. Oh, bring my hands up, bring him up, bring him up, bring him up, bring him up. He's playing with us. Meet me at my house, you get mine, I get yours, it'll work out.
Then came the defensive scramble, where explanations stacked up faster than anyone could possibly verify, and each rushed word carried the sharp scent of irritation bursting through the surface. It was clear the buttons weren't just pressed, they were hammered with real frustration. What pushed the moment into a full spiral wasn't only the content, but the speed at which everything unraveled afterward, as clips bounced across platforms like runaway pinballs. Supporters hurried to reshape the moment. Critics sharpened their takes, but the internet had already crowned it pure entertainment. A messy collision unfolding in real time. Even the body language betrayed him. The stiff posture, the tense jaw, the eyes scanning far too quickly. Signs that analysts didn't need whispers to understand the strain surging beneath the surface.
But his hand gestures matched the words coming out of his mouth.
Right. Yes,
if the president was like, we want peace in the Middle East, you know what I'm saying? He would be like,
right,
and like,
That's it. That it is. It's the contrast.
yeah, like Gavin, his hands are aggressive. You know, we've had a lot of theories. One, it was a bad negotiation with a deaf hooker. You know, now he doesn't want to pay for, you know.
Do you have a problem with deaf hookers?
He does, because
It's always a remarkable day when a polished political operator is pushed out of their safe script mode and forced into raw reaction mode, and the shift is impossible to miss. Script mode is comfortable and rehearsed, built to charm focus groups and avoid upsetting donors across the map. But reaction mode strips all that away and leaves instinct standing there without a mask. And irritated instinct never flatters anyone. Tyrus didn't need to land a blow because the exposure itself acted like a pressure valve snapping open, forcing years of careful storytelling and political choreography to improvise under fire. Reaction channels doubled their output, supporters rushed in with frantic loyalty that felt like emergency triage, and opponents celebrated instantly, stacking digital proof like trophies. Hovering above everything was Newsom's own reaction, echoing louder each time a new defense appeared, and making the original eruption feel even more unforgettable.
days later, 99% no one's crossed. They're standing at the border like, you go. No, that you go. Like, no one wants to go. Newsom goes down there and says, oh, there's a problem. This is what we saw this in New York when he put, what's his name, that Blasio, the guy you really hate?
Bill de Blasio.
He put his wife in charge of the homeless, and there's $50 million still missing?
Yeah.
So this is another one of the left's money schemes where the guy who's in charge is saying, we need help, we need to figure out a way to do this. So they're going to make a committee. They already have bubonic plague in California. I remember Dr. Drew was going, there's bubonic plague back in California.
It's one of the cruel realities of modern media. Once an emotional reaction is captured, every attempt to smooth it over only reminds the public that the reaction exploded in the first place. Political figures spend their entire careers trying to look unshakable, yet the moments that define them most are the ones where they visibly crack. While strategists argue over whether to double down or pivot, social media teams refresh notifications so fast their screens might overheat. And somewhere a crisis memo is rewritten at record speed. But the internet doesn't wait for approval. While professionals strategized, the crowd reacted instantly, churning out memes within minutes because satire detects panic like sharks detect blood. Clips were edited, slow-motion moments added, expressions frozen into screenshots destined to outlive any official statement. And soon the follow-ups came rolling in, because once a reaction escapes its cage, questions immediately break loose and spread with a life of their own.
No, we need to rethink everything, because the one thing about dementia or getting older, that the real you comes out. Mm-hmm. There's no more filters, the little Jiminy Cricket in your shoulder that says, don't say that, he died. So now it's just unfiltered. Mm-hmm. So now we have to go back. I think Corn Pop got a bad rap.
Yes.
Pretty sure Corn Pop's name was Cornelius.
Yes.
And Joe was trying to tell him how cool his hair is when it gets wet.
Scrutiny always digs deeper, pulling up old moments, past statements, and earlier decisions that suddenly feel newly connected, turning one exposure into a doorway for a much bigger conversation no one in power ever wants to have. The most revealing part wasn't Newsom's next words, but the shift in his tone, sharp edges softening just slightly, though not enough to erase the sting of that first eruption. For years, he mastered staying on offense, shaping discussions before critics gathered momentum, but when exposure flips that balance even briefly, the adjustment can look painfully awkward. The polished performer suddenly has to absorb impact instead of delivering it. And impact was exactly what the audience came for. Whether viewers leaned left, right, or simply leaned back with popcorn, they felt it instantly. This wasn't staged drama. This was real friction sparking on live display, the kind that carries an electricity no rehearsed monologue can ever match.
I'm not paying money for that. I'll do it myself. So, you know. A little bit of bubble. Could you imagine if you were the sign person for the TV going...
You know what's interesting about him? I have maintained that Gavin Newsom has the easiest job of all politicians because California is a beautiful state.
Yeah.
At its baseline, people will stay there for the weather and the scenic elements. So they'll put up with anything, and they'll put up even with a governor who...
Tyrus didn't need to push anything further because the spark had already set the entire room on edge. And the calmer he remained, the harsher the contrast became. His steady posture only magnified the imbalance, creating an uneasy tension that viewers felt even if they couldn't describe it. One side moved with mechanical precision, while the other pounded like a drumline that missed rehearsal and stumbled into chaos. The aftermath played out exactly as anyone familiar with online storms would expect. Trending tags rose and fell, think pieces multiplied overnight, and suddenly everyone acted like an expert on tone and timing. But what truly lingered were the moments that captured raw emotion, the kind that stay in the public memory not because of their size, but because of how nakedly honest they appeared. From a strategic angle, the eruption cost far more than it delivered. Outrage rarely wins skeptics, rarely comforts the undecided, and worst of all, it exposes pressure that cannot be easily hidden.
I will not bring my kids back to my neighborhood because I don't feel like walking through, as you affectionately call, hobos, drug addicts and pedophiles and criminals who hide there because it's a great place to hide and commit crimes. So he could do something. He doesn't want to do something. He's just saying to see if American people are stupid enough to fall for his...
Yeah, you know what we used to call, gotta move on.
And once that pressure becomes visible, critics stop debating the argument and start questioning the stability behind it, hitting where it hurts most. The days that followed weren't explosive, but they were revealing. Tiny shifts in messaging, slight changes in tone, and a quiet retreat from positions that suddenly looked far too exposed. None of it was announced as a correction, yet the adjustments were clear to anyone paying close attention. The comparison machine went into overdrive, highlighting a simple truth often ignored in political circles. Power hates being challenged in public. It accepts critique in controlled settings, tolerates opposition in structured debate, but unexpected exposure feels personal, and personal shots trigger personal reactions. Newsom's eruption wasn't just about the content. It was about the breach, the crack in the polished wall between curated image and unpredictable reality. Once that wall opened even a little, people peeked inside, and once they saw what was behind it, they didn't forget.
No.
No,
He would
because
not do that. He would not do that because that's just straight up honest racism. That's no. That's
Remember,
some
he
shit
did
you
that
would
with-
say-
he did that
He
about
would do it in
Indians.
a way where he would tell a story about the founding fathers and how they built this country so when immigrants could come from India and build 7-Elevens
Yeah, so that's what he would do.
and hand him Slurpees in the summertime.
Yes.
Overpriced, of course. That's how he'll do it. And he'll say, and then he'll tell Vivek.
In the long run, the political machine will swallow this moment the same way it swallows everything else, through time, distraction, and a non-stop flood of fresh controversies that drown out yesterday's fire. but the short-term impact is impossible to deny. The conversation shifted, the posture changed, and the confidence took a visible hit that viewers immediately picked up on. Suddenly, it wasn't about who made the better argument. It was about who looked shaken, and in the arena of public perception, looking rattled is often judged far more harshly than being wrong. As the weeks pass, the eruption will pop up in clips, jokes, and raised eyebrow comments, becoming shorthand for a moment when composure cracked in real time. People won't cling to every detail. They'll remember the feeling of watching irritation break through the surface, because that first crack is what the audience replays. Somewhere deep in the political machinery, the lesson is quietly filed away, even if no one ever admits it.
He's lying and I can't do that. Well, since you can't lie, what tequila were you nursing while the Pacific Palisades burned? And what was it like banging your campaign manager's wife? Of course, he's just waiting for us to forget that his state looks like an overturned porta potty.
So what their problem is not that what he says is that anyone from any walk of life understands his message.
And that's scary.
And that is suck.
Not announced, not acknowledged, but absolutely remembered, because exposure doesn't need to roar to be effective. It only needs to spark the right reaction, and this one did exactly that. The response spoke louder than any statement, revealing that the pressure was real, the moment truly mattered, and the fragile balance between image and reality wobbled just enough for everyone to witness it. The irony is sharp. Politics survives on performance, yet the moments that hit hardest are always the unscripted ones that slip through without warning. This wasn't just about one reveal or one eruption. It was a reminder the audience never stops craving, a glimpse behind the curtain where the polished persona can't fully hide. Because behind every crafted speech and flawless presentation sits a human reaction waiting for the wrong moment to escape. And once it does, no amount of messaging can seal it back in the bottle. From that point on, the reaction becomes a reference point, a quiet marker in the timeline that resurfaces whenever composure gets questioned again.
And then look at the audience and be like, what?
Yeah.
What did I say here? No one likes him in his family. Because at some point, if you had any love from anybody, they'd be enough. If he was a boxer, you hug him, you put the towel over his head and be like, we're going home, man.
Yeah.
We're going home. We're done here. But
Yeah.
he couldn't even read LL.
Yeah.
Can I add something very quickly here? Obviously, Newsom is jockeying for presidential position because he has agreed to debate Ron DeSantis on this network.
Yes.
Every future display of calm will be quietly measured against that flash of irritation, and every polished statement will carry a faint echo of that earlier outburst, like a thin crack hiding beneath a fresh coat of paint. The audience will eventually move to the next spectacle, because the cycle always demands new drama. But memory works in strange ways. It clings to moments, not details. It holds on to the contrast between the image that was supposed to dominate and the reaction that briefly shattered it, sharpening that difference as time goes on. Long after headlines fade, the clip will resurface in corners of the internet, appearing whenever pressure collides with power once again. And that's the real aftershock of an eruption like this. Not the immediate noise, but the lasting reminder that control, no matter how carefully crafted, is always one unexpected spark away from slipping for everyone to see.